I'm Brandon Mintz. I'm the founder and CEO of Bitcoin Depot. It is a crypto ATM company that has 200 of these machines all across the US and 18 states. We offer 4 different cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ether. So we started in Atlanta. We have about a quarter of our network here with roughly 50 machines. And we're using a software provider for these machines called Genesis Coin. It's one of the most popular software providers for crypto ATMs. And the difference between our product and some others is we offer much quicker verification times and deposits into your wallet after you buy cryptocurrency. A lot of other options upon sign up or transacting can take days or weeks, especially if there's a period of very high demand for cryptocurrency. So in 2019, we plan to have about 350 to 400 ATMs, still just expanding in the US, moving into some new cities and states. And one of the major differences between us and some of the other crypto exchange services you might have used is we offer live customer support. So I don't know if anyone in this room has ever tried to call Coinbase, but they say they have live customer support. Nobody really answers. Many other exchanges are very similar, where you have to kind of wait days or weeks to get a reply back from any sort of support request. So that's one of the benefits that Bitcoin Depot offers. The reason why I got into all of this was in 2013, I heard about Bitcoin and I saw the huge price run up and just wanted to buy some. And I ended up signing up on Coinbase, and by the time I got registered and approved and a couple emails back and forth with support, I think it was 2 weeks later, I ended up being able to place an order, and my order actually got canceled for some odd reason. And after I emailed Coinbase, hey, what's going on? Why did my order get canceled? They actually said it was a mistake, and the price went up a ton, and I missed out on the increase in valuation. Could have doubled my money if they fulfilled that order, and I was extremely unhappy, and I was like, screw this, I'm going to figure out another way. So I realized that beyond just buying crypto with your credit or debit card or ACH or wire transfer, there was actually a cash-based market. So in 2013, there was this website I found. It was called Cash into Coins. Now, Cash into Coins, nobody really knew about at the time. It was kind of like a really niche customer base. And it allowed you to go to various banks around the country and deposit cash into a seller's bank account. And so they were able to immediately verify that transaction. And because it was cash, the fraud risk was very low. And I was able to actually get Bitcoin within an hour. So I just spent 2-3 weeks waiting and trying to buy Bitcoin, missing up on a price run up, and now I just got Bitcoin in an hour. So my mind was really blown, and I thought, wow, people need to know about this. So I ended up forming a similar service, and we did millions of dollars in transactions a year through that service before I actually got into the ATM side of things because of banking trouble. So this concept really brought about what was the start of Bitcoin Depot. But it was a lot harder than I thought to get started. A lot of you in here, you may have looked at the different options available, maybe go into different software providers, websites, different hardware providers. And you have to figure out from day one the right ATM to use, the right software to use. There's been a lot of people I know, they get a network of 20, 30, 40 machines out there, and they realize that their software provider does not have enough compliance mechanisms in place to be able to facilitate their AML compliance program. So it's pretty difficult because you kind of have to read up on everything you need to do from day one before you can make a mistake that may potentially cost you thousands of dollars. And then the other thing is you have to get a bank to work with you. So banks in the US are extremely strict on high-risk customers now. 2013, there was something called Operation Choke Point, basically scared all of these banks. into avoiding high-risk customers such as people that are in retail or very high cash-based or any sort of ATM or kiosk or a money service business, which is what we are, because we're exchanging basically one currency for another, and federal guidelines say that we fall into that category. So imagine going to meetings with about 35 different banks around the country and having every single one of them tell you no. Well, that was my situation. So there was a lot of flights, there was a lot of meetings, and I got turned down time and time again. And ultimately, a few years in, I finally found that banking relationship. And of course, these are physical machines that are accepting cash only. There's some options now starting to be available that accept cards, but 99% of the transactions at crypto ATMs are actually done with cash. And when you work with cash, it's very expensive because you have to somehow collect that cash from this physical ATM machine and bring it to a bank if you have a bank. So we're working with various armored providers across the country. Now, you think that you just sign up with this armored provider and they do their job, right? Well, it turns out that the people managing millions of dollars of cash on a daily basis get paid $11, $12, $13 an hour. And so it's pretty shocking the mistakes that can be made by them when operating this type of a business. For example, about a year and a half, 2 years ago, I read a story in Atlanta about an armored truck provider who had $1.8 million in cash in their truck, and the guys working in that truck got out of the truck with it running, and somebody just hopped in and stole it. So that's kind of what you get when you're working with very entry-level, low-paid employees. And then another thing we've had to do is we've had to form relationships with technicians around the country. So we're in about 18 cities now, or 18 states, 25 to 30 cities. So you got to imagine there's a lot of people that we have to build relationships with to be able to manage our maintenance, installations, and repairs. So we're building relationships with various ATM technicians around the country right now, and there's quite a few dozen of them. So it's a pretty long setup process if you ever wanted to go outside your local network. And then another thing that I think is pretty unexpected is the startup costs. In the crypto space, especially with these machines, as you guys have seen, as the price goes up and down and different types of news comes out, there could be months and months of great PR and media where the demand's a lot higher and people are buying, and then other times where it's more stagnant. So it's difficult to measure the volumes that you may potentially receive. But to run a crypto ATM successfully, it's about $25,000 per location. So it's not cheap, and we have 200 of them out there. And then also you got to think that not everyone may want to use a crypto ATM. Some people don't want to physically go out. So it's very important that we get the right locations. So there's a lot of different data to look at, but think about it this way. 2% of the population in the US probably owns any sort of crypto right now. I would not be surprised if only 5% of those people, if not less, wanted to buy with cash from a crypto ATM. A lot of people still to this day with 4,500 machines worldwide, they don't even know that this type of a service exists. So we have to put our locations in very dense metropolitan cities around the US to be able to serve that large population, because we only have a very tiny fraction of that population using our style of a service. And of course, because we're in these large cities, it's expensive. The stores expect higher rent and those types of things. And it's difficult to market our service as well because, again, it's a tiny fraction of the population. If you advertise to the general public, a lot of that money could be wasted. You have to be very, very targeted with the marketing methods that you do choose. So some fun facts about I call it the crypto ATM industry. Bitcoin ATM is just the term that people were more familiar with, but some fun facts about the crypto ATM industry. The industry, regardless of the price, is pretty stable and quickly growing. Every year, we have at least doubled the number of crypto ATMs out there. So this time last year, I would say there was about 2,000 worldwide, 2,500 maybe. And I think now we're up to 4,500. So I think we're going to keep doubling and doubling to the point to where, maybe 3-4 years from now, we get close to that 50,000 number, especially with some larger players that may come into the space. What else I saw interesting is our volumes compared to major exchanges. Like Bittrex and Binance and Gemini and Coinbase. If you guys remember the ridiculous run-up in price from October 2017, December 2017, I think we went from 5 to 19,000 something. The volumes of these exchanges for, let's say, USD to Bitcoin, let's just call it was $30 million a day in trading volume. I think now if you were doing $30 million a day back then, those exchanges may be doing $1 million a day now. So their services are really appealing to people that have FOMO and they're worried about missing out, and they dive into the space, and potentially more institutional investors versus our service, which is more targeted at the everyday user of the actual cryptocurrency versus people speculating solely on price. So our volume has been pretty stable compared to some of these exchanges where they may have crashed down to 2% of the volume that they were doing at one point in time. But I think for crypto ATMs, the demand is actually pretty stable. I think the customer base is using cryptocurrency for more of the utility value, the quicker money transfer without foreign currency exchange fees, the ability to pay merchants overseas, the ability to buy things online, the ability to send money to friends and family with no intermediaries, a lot easier and quicker. And believe it or not, there's actually 600 plus Bitcoin ATM operators at this point in time. There's quite a few of us, but I think there's only about 10 to 15 players in the space that are really serious, like us, with us being the second largest by number of locations. A lot of people, they think they can do this as a hobby, more of like a lifestyle side business. But I think unless you have the resources to spend a couple $100,000 a year on compliance-related services, it's probably not going to be worth it for you, and you're going to risk getting into some trouble, to say the least. Crypto ATMs now are in a ton of different international countries, 76 countries right now. But it's pretty crazy how the US has 75% of these ATMs worldwide. Really, the market is getting more and more concentrated in the US, with a lot of these developing countries just now starting to receive these ATMs 3-4 years later. For example, I think Venezuela just got their first few in the past months. Atlanta actually has the 5th largest number of crypto ATMs in the world right now. And I think that probably is because of us, because we have 55 here. And crypto ATMs, they actually are a pretty popular platform for crypto adoption. Because if you think about it, if you combine all of the volume from all of the ATMs worldwide, we're probably selling hundreds of Bitcoin per day. And with the supply only increasing by 12.5 Bitcoin every 10 minutes, then that's pretty substantial volume. So getting into the importance of crypto ATMs and how they play in the space, they actually provide access to cryptocurrency for the underbanked. Believe it or not, and it's going to be surprising because all of us in this room, we probably have bank accounts, credit cards. We don't really use Western Union or check cashing stores. But believe it or not, 2 to 3 billion people in the world, about a third of the population, does not have access to any of that. They only deal in cash. And in the US, that number I think is about 60 million, which is probably, I think the population now is 330 million. So maybe about a fifth of the population in the US is underbanked. So for example, imagine this. Imagine you have a Venezuelan migrant worker here in the US. They're living in Miami. And as a lot of you probably know in this room, Venezuela has very difficult issues with inflation right now, where if you get paid in the local currency, you never know where the value is going to end up at. So you have someone here in the US, in Miami, and traditionally they're using services like Western Union or MoneyGram to send money down to Venezuela. And I saw a video the other day, it was pretty interesting, from another crypto ATM provider. They actually met a local Venezuelan in Miami using one of their ATMs to do just that, to send money down to family in Venezuela. To send $100 traditionally down to Venezuela, they were paying, I believe, $30 in fees, and they were probably having to wait a couple days on the receiving end to collect those funds. So in the future, I think more and more of these remittance services and money transfer solutions are going to be done using crypto ATMs, because it's going to be more convenient. You're going to be able to run down your 24/7 C-store with cash and sign up and transact within a minute and send the cryptocurrency down to the receiver in Venezuela, for example, and they're going to receive it maybe 10, 20 minutes later. And they can either pay for things down there in Bitcoin or they can convert it. But most likely in these countries with heavy inflation, they're going to want to keep Bitcoin versus the local currency, because Bitcoin, and believe it or not, with all the price fluctuations, can be a lot more stable than fiat currencies in some other countries. And like I said, with us, the verification is much, much quicker than online exchanges. And part of the reason why is because we're not verifying one of your financial accounts. So I'm not verifying that you own that bank account or that credit card whenever you're sending money to us. And so we don't have the risk of chargebacks that traditionally other exchanges do that are using those methods. And there's not really a way to 100% protect from any of those reversals. And that's part of the reason why crypto was created, because Bitcoin is irreversible and it's great for merchants who experience high chargebacks, especially considering in the past few years you had that Equifax hack and the many others. And I wouldn't be surprised if the majority of people in this room had their credit card information online and it's just sitting there waiting for somebody to buy it. So I recommend if you haven't changed your card numbers in the past year, I would go ahead and do that, because you never know. Another benefit to these ATMs is we provide that physical aspect that gives you a greater sense of trust. A lot of times now, people go onto a website and they don't want to buy something or submit their information because they have distrust of who actually is the owner and operator of this website. And I experience that all the time, where I don't want to give my credit card information out. This website, looks sketchy. But once you have a physical machine sitting somewhere next to an ATM that you've used all the time, a store you always go to, you're going to think that this is a real service, and you're going to feel a lot more comfortable using it versus some of the online options where you have to give a ton of information to, including your social security number a lot of times. So I think the future of Bitcoin ATMs is exponential growth. Like I said, we're going to be doubling every year with the number of machines, I'm sure, at least. And I won't be surprised if a couple years down the road, there's 1,000 machines in Atlanta, and pretty much every gas station, convenience store that you go to has one. And because of that, adoption of cryptocurrency is going to become more mainstream. People are forced to look at this machine, whether or not they want to research crypto, whether or not they think it's a scam. And it's going to provide more convenient access for anyone looking to make a purchase or sale. And it's very vital for the underbanked population that doesn't have that access to financial services, because they're dealing in cash, or machines accept cash. It's really their only way into this crypto market. So if we want cryptocurrencies to become mainstream, what about that 1/3 of the world's population, that other 2 to 3 billion people? This is going to be their only option. And I get this question all the time. Well, what's the point of these ATMs? You can just go buy on Coinbase. And this is truly why. It's because these people are constantly left out, 1/3 of the world's population, and now they have access. But we also do get investors and traders a lot of time who just don't want to wait to get verified and approved to be able to transact on a major exchange. So I think over the next few years, we're going to see cryptocurrencies become more heavily adopted. And crypto ATMs are going to play a big part in that. So that is the end of my presentation, and I think we have quite a bit of time for questions. So anyone have any questions for me? Yes. Yeah, so we're using the Genesis Coin software on the Gen Mega machines that they have the relationship with. And we're selling Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ether, and Bitcoin Cash. The other cryptos do not receive much volume. I've found that lower income people like Litecoin. By looking at our data, the transaction sizes are a bit lower there for some odd reason. And I think that happened when the transaction fees were really high to send Bitcoin from one person to another. A year or so ago, it's like $20, $30 to send one transaction. I think a lot of the customer base converted to Litecoin because it was still just $2 or $3, and they stuck with it.
And what about like fungible tokens and brittle? Are you finding that the regulatory issues are preventing the sale of fungible tokens, or is it just not sort of demand there? And then what's the deal with brittle? Do you guys do that at all?
With the resale of these tokens, there would be some regulatory concern. And with all of the many, many tokens out there, it wouldn't be worth the time for us to explore those options. And we recommend wallets to our customers that allow crypto-to-crypto conversions within the app. For example, Edge, I know, has Shapeshift in there. And if Shapeshift has token access, then someone can buy Bitcoin and easily convert within just a couple minutes. It's too difficult for crypto ATM providers to offer 100 different cryptos and tokens because nobody really wants to buy anything other than Bitcoin, it seems like. Keep in mind, we're working with more of a beginner level customer base a lot of times, and they may not know all of these other options that exist. Yeah.
Yeah, what countries is the remittance effectively higher for your customers? Trying to send money abroad.
So what countries are effectively using our machines for remittance-related transactions? I would say I don't have specific countries, because I don't have enough information from the customer base, such as surveys and whatnot, to figure that out. But I would think it's definitely Latin America. That would make the most sense. And we are in a lot of markets that are heavily Hispanic, like Miami and Dallas, Texas, and Los Angeles.
Do we have some demographic information and what type of people and the generation, and also whether or not somebody uses Coinbase, CoinDesk, or ATM, or percentage in terms of transaction?
So I believe your question was, what are the demographics of our customers? And then what was the second part?
The second question is what percentage of people use Coinbase, CoinDesk, some other,
Okay.
compared to ATM?
Got it. So as far as demographics goes, I think two-thirds of our customer base is in the millennial age range, which I believe now is maybe 21 to mid-30s. I think it's up to 36. I think that's about two-thirds of our customer base. Also, it's about 80% male. And of course, we are in very major metropolitan cities, so our customer base is made up of a lot of these people that use services for reasons because they're underbanked. And then the second question is what is the breakdown when looking at crypto exchanges, and how much of the buying of crypto is split between ATMs and other exchanges? I think that crypto ATMs are probably 5% of the total market where people are buying crypto. Because you got to think too, our transactions are pretty small. Typically, underbanked people are doing transactions between $1 and $200, which is the same for our machines. And then with the exchanges like Coinbase, they have an institutional feature where someone can come buy $1 million. So we're working with a customer base that buys in smaller quantities. So, I wouldn't be surprised if it was under 5% of the total purchases of crypto. Any other questions? Nope. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. I hope this provided a lot of useful information for you guys.